This is the Earth. 71% of it is water, while the rest, or about 29%, is composed of 7 continents that make up its landmass. This video will contain at least 5 random facts about every single continent on planet Earth. Also, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you like this kind of content, and if you know more interesting facts about this topic, feel free to write them down in the comments. So, Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo. South America. South America is an interesting continent because it has some of the highest, largest, heaviest and most probably prettiest natural things in the world. For example, the well-known Angel Falls, situated in Venezuela, is the world's tallest uninterrupted waterfall. With a height of 979 meters and a plunge of 807 meters, the noise that the water makes on impact can be heard from a distance of about 40 kilometers, and the mist can be seen from almost 50 kilometers away. Another 2 examples are the Amazon River, that is the largest river by water volume, and the Anaconda, which is one of the Earth's largest snakes. But these 2 examples are very well known and maybe not so interesting. For our next one, we will leave the rainforests and the rivers and travel high up in the mountains, where we can find the Andes. Mount Aconcagua in Argentina is the second largest mountain outside of Asia, with a height of 6,961 meters. Not only that, but Peak Chimborazo in Ecuador is the farther from the Earth's center than any other location on Earth's surface due to the equatorial bulge, making it the highest place on Earth. But the Andes are not finished, because they also house some of the world's highest volcanoes, including Ojos del Salado on the Chile-Argentina border, which rises to 6,893 meters. Coming down a bit at an altitude of approximately 3,800 meters, we can find Lake Titicaca, which is not only the largest lake in South America, but also the world's highest lake. Going down even further, we can find Brazil, which is the 5th largest country in the world and 3rd largest in the Americas, behind Canada and USA. And, as if this wasn't enough, Brazil is the largest producer of coffee in the world. Coffee, which seems to be on every European shopping list, because apparently we consume more of this stuff than anywhere else in the world. Europe. One more thing that us Europeans like is apparently going to war. Europe had maybe some of the longest and the bloodiest wars of all time, including both World Wars, Napoleonic Wars, Roman Wars, the 30 Years' War, Spanish Civil War, and let's not forget the 101 Years' War. Yep, a 101-year-long war. But why all the fighting? Maybe it has something to do with the fact that Europe is the only continent that does not have any deserts, or maybe that Europe is the second most densely populated continent after Asia. That's why we have a lot of microstates like Monaco, San Marino, Liechtenstein and Vatican City, which actually is the world's smallest country with a land area only 0.5 square kilometers. What do us Europeans like to do in our spare time, you ask? Well, I mean, when we are not having any wars? I guess we like to invent stuff. Stuff like the printing press, glasses, steam engine, petrol and diesel engine, jet engine, helicopters, the spacesuit, internet, and the list can go on. One more interesting thing that Europe has is the biggest country in the world, Russia. Or do we? While Moscow, the capital of Russia, is technically located in Europe, more than 3/4 or 77% of Russia, it's located in Asia. So, let's switch to this continent. Asia is the largest continent. It covers 1/3 of Earth's surface, and Russia occupies about 30% of it. Not only this, But Asia also has the highest population, with half of the world living here. The Earth's two most populous countries, China and India, representing some 45% of the world's population, or about 2.8 billion out of 7.9 billion, can be found here. Being such a vast and open space, it's no wonder that here we can find the longest wall in the world. The Great Wall of China was built over the course of several decades in order to protect the people from foreign invaders, mainly Mongolian riders. The total length is about 20,000 kilometers. The average height is 6 to 7 meters, with the highest being 14 meters, and the average width is 6.5 meters. And you can imagine that all this construction work took a lot of people who needed to be fed. So, it's no wonder that Asian countries are the largest producer and consumer of rice in the world. Asians eat up to 90% of the total world production, and the top 5 producing countries are China, India, Indonesia, Bangladesh and Vietnam. Vietnam, who is also home to one of the world's largest natural caves named Son Doong. It was discovered quite recently in 1991 and has the largest volume, twice that of the next largest cave, Deer Cave in Malaysia. Just imagine the echo that you can make in this 5 km long, 200 meters high and 150 meters wide cave that was carved in limestone by a fast-flowing subterranean river. And the last thing that I want to mention about Asia is the highest mountain in the world, Mount Everest, with a max altitude of 8,848 meters. It formed in the Cenozoic when the Indian subcontinent drifted into the Eurasia plate, giving birth to the Himalayas. But before this drift, the Indian subcontinent was part of the supercontinent known as Gondwana. Gondwana included most of the land masses in today's southern hemisphere, including Antarctica, South America, Africa, Madagascar and Australia, as well as the Arabian Peninsula and the Indian subcontinent, which now have moved entirely in the northern hemisphere. So, since a long time ago Antarctica was not so Arctic, let's see a few facts about it today. This mostly uninhabited continent started separating from Australia about 85 million years ago, and unfortunately for it, it went into the wrong direction. That's why Antarctica holds the record for the coldest natural temperature ever recorded on Earth, minus 89.2 degrees. And if the cold doesn't get you, well, Antarctica is also a desert. A cold desert that is the driest, windiest, emptiest place on Earth, which receives more solar radiation on the surface than the equator region. But the comparison with a desert is funny, because by definition a desert has low amounts of water, and I quote, "A desert is a barren area of landscape where little precipitations occur." But Antarctica is very rich in water, so much so that about 70% of the world's freshwater reserves are found on this continent. Let's say that somehow you still want to visit this continent. How do you get there? Well, one thing's for sure. Not in the winter period, because sea ice forms around Antarctica in the winter and ships cannot push through this. Constant dark, extreme low temperatures and regular fierce storms present extra barriers. Maybe this is why Antarctica is the last continent to be discovered in the early 1800s, and it wasn't recognized as a continent until 1840. But if Antarctica is the last continent to be discovered by man, which is the first? Well, I guess that the answer to this question is Africa. In Africa, the first humans emerged around 2 million years ago. So, this landmass, which happens to be the second largest continent on Earth, was the place where our ancestors thought that walking on 2 feet was better than 4. Let's put those early humans aside, because Africa is home to some amazing geography facts. For example, Africa is home to the Sahara Desert, which is the biggest hot desert on Earth, stretching for 4,800 kilometers long, 1,800 kilometers wide and occupying a total of 9,200 million square kilometers. This means it is almost as big as China and it occupies approximately 30% of Africa, or a total of 8% of the Earth's total land area. Having such a vast desert, and also the fact that the equator passes through the middle of Africa, it is no wonder that the world's hottest place can be found here. Ethiopia has an average daily maximum temperature of 41 degrees. But if we take a closer look at this barren land, we can also discover life. Let's take a look at the Nile River. Maybe you already know that this is the longest river in the world with a total length spanning more than 6,650 kilometers and 11 countries, but this is also the biggest river that flows upside down, from south to north. Because of this, many believe that this river's flow is uphill, which is not the case if we take a closer look at the curvature of the Earth. Let's zoom out a little bit in order to see the big picture. This continent is not only big, but also is the richest continent in terms of natural resources. For example, it is estimated that 30% of total Earth's mineral resources are found here, and we already know that approximately 95% of diamonds and 50% of the world's gold comes from Africa. And let's not forget chocolate, with 66% coming also out of Africa. But unfortunately, due to corruption, even with all these riches, Africa has the lowest GDP per capita of all other continents, except maybe Antarctica. This cannot be said of our next contender, which the numbers say that is the richest. North America has a GDP per capita of around $47,477, which is approximately 21% bigger than that of Africa. And a big chunk of this cash seems to be spent on food, because the average food intake per person is also greater than that of any other continents. Also, on this continent we can find the longest border in the world, which is 8,892 kilometers long between US and Canada, and if we take a closer look at this border, we find a lake. Named Lake Superior, it is the largest freshwater lake by surface and the third largest by volume. Another interesting thing about this continent is its climate. This is the only one that has every kind of climate: tropical, dry, continental, moderate and polar. Having to home the second and third or fourth largest countries in the world, US and Canada, and zooming out to see that also Mexico is here, which is the 13th largest, some would say that there isn't much room left for any other countries. But this is not true. In fact, the North American continent is home to some 23 countries, beating South America with 12 and Australia and Oceania with 14. And this, actually, reminds me about our last continent, Australia. Australia, which is also known as the island continent because it's the largest island on Earth. An island is a landmass that is surrounded by waters on all sides, and Australia seems to check all the boxes. Size is another thing that helps Australia to have this title, because it's the smallest of the continents. At only 3 million square miles, this continent is almost 6 times smaller than Asia. But this doesn't mean that Australia doesn't pack a punch. For example, on the island of Tasmania, there is a little cute mammal named Tasmanian devil that has the strongest bite per body size of any other mammal. If this doesn't scare you, Australia is also home to 21 of the world's 25 most dangerous snakes, 1,500 types of spiders, 4,000 types of ants, and 350 types of termites. But this doesn't seem to be a problem for the humans living there, because Australia is ranked second on the Human Development Index, which takes into account a long and healthy life, knowledge, and a decent standard of living. Maybe this high standard of living has to do with the fact that 4 out of 5 Aussies lives less than 50 kilometers from the coastline, and that they have around 10,685 beautiful beaches, and if you go underwater you can find the Great Barrier Reef, which is Earth's largest living structure. Well, Australia really is a wonderful continent and the perfect place to end our video for today. But before you go, please don't forget to write down in the comments if you know more interesting facts, and also don't forget to subscribe if you like this video. Until next time, have a wonderful day.